Power Hour with John Lee.
So let's just boom into the room. I've got Bonnie and Clyde. You've got to go with Bonnie and Clyde. But behind the romanticism of it, not the romance because that's fundamental, it is a true romance story. But it's kind of romanticised into Hollywood lore, you know. But what did we have really? Right, we had a poor boy and a kind of, well, and in that context, middle class girl. So Clyde, he really had nothing. He grew up in not even a one horse town. They did not have a horse in that town. It was really, really dank. It was desperate. It was dirty. It was grotty. It was mean. And that's where he grew up. And his older brother was a thief. And so he kind of grew into that, Clyde. And I suppose he found he had a talent for it. And he wasn't stupid, but he just had no opportunities in life, you know. And so he learned how to steal, and he became very good at it. And he was a good driver. He was a good thief. He was intelligent. He was charismatic. He was charming. And Bonnie was his, soon-to-be star-crossed lover. And what do we know about her? Well, she grew up with more than he did, but still with very little. She was quite pretty and attractive, small. I don't think she was 5 foot tall. We're not talking about ancient history. This is 100 years ago. There were plenty of big people at that time. She was just a small person, you know. And she was, but she was intelligent and she was into her poetry. But she did get married before she met Clyde. He was called Roy, and he was what they used to call a rotter. You know, he used to leave her all the time. He left her at least 3 times, and he used to beat her. You know, anytime she tried to call him out for any of his behaviour, he used to give her a backhander and all that. And I suppose those were the days, and that, you know, when you wouldn't get locked up for it. You definitely wouldn't get locked up for that. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. So what happened? They met. And when they met, of course, Clyde, he was more established. He had a good suit and a nice car, but the car was stolen. But so what? To them, you know, that was the thing. Have you got it or not? Because in this life and in this world that they were living, that's all it is. If you don't steal it, you don't get it. Because no one's going to, not only will they not give it to you, but they won't allow you to go and get it either. So that's kind of me trying to understand how they fell into that lifestyle. And then Clyde Rooney gets nicked, as we say in England. He gets arrested, and he's doing hard time as it used to be, proper rock breaking, you know, just for the sake of breaking rocks, and it's torture. And he's got something like 15 years to do. He's only a pup, and he's got 15 years to get through with this torture, you see. And he's also getting raped, you know, by this big bully who was over 6 feet tall and a good deal older than him. Now, he'd already been in prison, and it was actually Bonnie broke him out. Yeah, brought a gun in and all that, and broke him out of the prison, him and others. So he was in and out of jail, but this was like his big one. He was going down for this. And he's doing his time, he's breaking rocks, and she's madly in love with him. And I think he with her as well. It really does seem to come through in what I've read, that they were actually in love. It wasn't just a question of crime or notoriety, because they didn't get any really while they were actually doing it. They were like painters in that sense. They didn't really become famous until after they were killed, although they did get a lot of local press and some national attention in the end. So anyway, he can't hack it, as we say. He can't handle it. He can't do it. And you know, I understand that. And he's trying to break all these rocks every day, and it's just, there's more rocks when you get up the next morning, and it's just shit. And this guy's raping him. He's beating him up, you know. And so he goes to a lifer, you know. He goes to his cellmate, and he says, fucking chop my toes off. Right? So I don't know how he did it. Foot up, I suppose, axe. Chopped 2 of his toes off so he could get put into the hospital, into the medical ward, and not have to go back out into the field. And that worked, and they put him in the hospital and all that. But, you know, you're talking like pre-anaesthesia. It's just pain and blood, isn't it, that? And so he's in the hospital, and then he finds out that his mother has been campaigning to get him pardoned. And she succeeded. So they pardoned him. He's only just chopped his toes off, And they said, right, you can go. So he hobbles out of the jail, minus a couple of toes, and he's limping them for the rest of his life. Anyway, they hook up, Bonnie and Clyde, and they're kind of part of a gang. It's really Clyde's gang, but she's in it, and they're going round all over the place stealing, and they shoot anyone who gets in the way. And Clyde, what he does is he steals from the armories, so they're keeping weapons in these armories, and he's going breaking in, and he's stealing the proper tackle. I don't know what they're called, but the beasting guns of the day. They were machine guns, I think, automatics, boom 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 style guns. And he's stealing Ford V8s, which were tremendously powerful, fast cars at the time, much faster than the law enforcement's equivalent. And so they're trying to chase this criminal gang, and they can't get anywhere near them. Fuck off. They're down the road. And if they do catch them, they've got pistols, the cops. They've got pistols, and they're facing proper gunfire. So they were serious criminals, Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie actually did some time in her own right. She was in prison for a while, about 6 months, I think. And she wrote a lot of poetry and kind of infused it with the kind of, gangster chat of the day and of the region. And so they started to draw some attention. They were getting in the newsreels before the films in the cinemas. Watch out for these two. But this was in the era of John Dillinger and Babyface Nelson and people like that, who were on a much higher level in every way, and making a lot more money, and they were a lot more famous and a lot more glamorous. And it was only during this kind of the hunt was on for them, and the police went to the place where they were, and they brought, like as I say, pistols, and they were totally outmatched, outgunned. And I think 2 of them got killed. And, one of them got proper peppered, like, as we say, pepper pot shot. And he died. And so at that point, they go into the flat where they've been, because they have to escape. And this is where they find all these photographs. And there was a kind of a feeling that this girl had been taken away by this guy, this kind of sexist idea, in my view, that if a woman does something negative, it's because she's being controlled by a man. She doesn't have the agency or the power in herself to decide what she's doing if it's bad. It must have been the guy who made her do it. If she writes a book with him, then you can't say, oh, well, the man wrote the book and she was just there. But if she robs a bank, then, well, the man robbed the bank and she was just there. And I just think that's very sexist. She did it because she wanted to fucking do it. And you can see it in the photographs. She's posing, she's loving it. She looks comfortable with the weapons, to say the least, And they were gangsters. And so J. Edgar Hoover, psychotic bastard that he was, but he might have been right in this case, he says, right, I'm going after him. And he gets this guy called Frank Hamer, who's a former Texas Ranger. You don't fuck with them boys. And he'd already killed 53 people. Imagine that. Imagine a cop who'd already killed 53 people. Already shot and killed 53 people. And they got this Frank Hamer and sent him down there hunting for Bonnie and Clyde. And this was not to arrest them. They had no intention of arresting Bonnie and Clyde. Not at all. And so they tracked them professionally, and they found them, and they waited in a field, and when they appeared, they came out, Frank Hamer and his deputies, bam, 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 bam. They shot the car 150 times. They put 150 bullets into the car. I mean, they took, they shot people up so much, the fucking arms fell off, Really, really bad. And that's the story of Bonnie and Clyde. So what's interesting about that for me and the world is how 2 young people, quite intelligent people, came together and just decided that this is what we need to do. And that kind of violence and crime unified them. It's that us against the world, And these are the extremes that we have to go to ensure our future together. And they won't let us go and live in a nice little house and raise a family and have a dog. They won't let us do that. They're going to chase us until we die. So we're going to, kind of live out the fantasy of the Romeo and Juliet on acid with guns and bullets. We're going to die, but we're going to die together, and we're going to have the most exciting time possible in the process. And I think that's what it was. And I think it was entirely mutual. And actually, just to tell you, they killed 13 people. How many did he kill? How many did she kill? I don't know. But they killed 13 people, which is quite a lot, obviously. Did a lot of bank robberies and a lot of crimes in general, a lot of theft, car theft and all that. So they were proper criminals. And I think they were genuinely bound by a mutual desire to be together. So that's one dynamic.